Mic check. Everybody hear me? Okay, well, welcome to the Ignite Talks at the San Diego SpaceUp Unconference and the San Diego Space Night Out. I'm Gerry Williams. I'm a cinematographer who grew up in the space race. In kindergarten, we were shooting men into space. In high school, we were landing on the moon. In 2001, I began my personal space odyssey by writing a Mars film, and that's when I stumbled onto the Mars Society. Now, they're not your typical space society. They're really working to prepare humans to explore and colonize Mars. So San Diego chapter was soon formed. We needed a monthly social event, and I created the Mars Movie Night. And then I created the Mars Movie Guide when I found out just how many Mars movies were actually out there. So Mars is the only planet that we can see from the surface of from Earth. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Panama Canal was built, and we were thinking that Martians had built canals too. The thought of life on Mars generated something totally awesome in literature that I grew up reading. 100 years and 8 days ago, Thomas Edison's company released the very first Mars film. It's a 4-minute silent film about a chemist who invents anti-gravity powder and accidentally travels to Mars. I show this film in my 2-hour presentation of Mars in the movies. Over the next 30 years, there were only 7 more feature films about Mars made. We review the films like these 3 today, and it's a good mirror on what we were seeing in the past. Before television was in everyone's home, short Mars films in the form of matinee serials became popular. During our monthly Mars movie nights, we began screening an episode of these serials before our main movie. The cliffhangers are really fun. The 50s is where we get many of the classic Mars films. The films mirror the amazing technological advances of the times as well as the fear of the Red Menace, usually from Mars instead of communist Russia. The War of the Worlds and the Invaders from Mars are 2 of my favorites. In the 1960s, suddenly men were being launched into space and the moon was our destination. We were living in the space age. We were living in our future. Anything could happen, and they did in the movies. And yes, before anybody asked, Pajama Party was a Mars film. By the end of the 60s, we'd landed on the moon, and when the space race was over, we won. The future really looked bright, and I couldn't wait to be a part and push on to Mars. I went to college to become a physicist, but the asthma kept me from being an astronaut. So I thought I could design and build spaceships instead. The Apollo program ended in the 70s, and we stopped going to the moon. Watergate taught us not to trust our government. The moon hoax got started with Capricorn 1, showing how to fake a Mars landing. But as Apollo astronaut Al Bean says, if we fake going to the moon, why would we fake it 9 times? In the 80s, we began flying space shuttles to low Earth orbit. The film industry began remaking some of the classics. My career shifted from being a physicist to being a filmmaker, and with a few exceptions, I really don't regret it. In space, the 1990s found us still hugging the shores of Earth, afraid we'd push deeper into the black, except with robots. When home video recorders became commonplace, it became far easier to produce and distribute low-budget films, most of which were real stinkers. As we began construction on the International Space Station, video technology leapt ahead, and both big-budget and no-budget Mars movies flourished. This month, we'll be screening Rocket Man as our Mars movie night. In the 21st century, the 21st century finally arrived, and not much changed for humans in space. The 2 plucky Mars rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, showed us that robots do indeed have personalities, and their longevity fueled resurgence in Mars films. Stranded and Destination Mars are 2 of the gems in the 90s there. With the loss of the second space shuttle, we were set back for years in reaching our island in the sky, the ISS. In 2005, a strange fascination with H.G. Wells resulted in a slew of remakes of War of the Worlds, none of which was remarkable. As the decade came to a close, more Martian literature was mined and minted into films. Jeff Wayne released his War of the Worlds video as a concert, and my Mars movie nights hosted the world premiere of Princess of Mars. That was just last December. The digital age is now in full swing, and at long last, the big-budget live-action version of John Carter of Mars began shooting last month for a 2012 release. It's a film I've been waiting for since reading all 11 of Burroughs' films in junior high school. Many more Mars films are in the works, and I'm saddened that I won't be able to actually film on location on the Martian soil, nor even on lunar soil, it seems. But at least we can all journey to the red planet with over 130 feature films on today's giant television screens, and of course, at the movies. So please visit my MarsMovieGuide.com, and thank you very much, and on to Mars.